Hey, Mark.
Hey, this is Ron Deal, everyone. He's the president and the founder of the SmartStepFamily.com, and also the author of the Smart Step Family, 7 Steps to a Healthy Family, and also the Smart Stepmom. So thanks for joining us today, Ron. Appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
You know, Ron, tell us a little bit about the context of single parents that turn into blended or step families today.
You know, in the United States, 1 out of 3 Americans has a step relationship. A lot of people kind of blink when I say that, but it's true. They're either a step parent, a step child, a step sibling, a step grandparent. That's 100 million Americans have a step relationship. Another way to look at it is family and households. We estimate through our ministry that 1 out of 3 weddings in the United States gives birth to a step family. 1 out of 3 weddings. So one of those 2 people or both of them have a child from a previous relationship. That translates into a lot of people.
It certainly does. Now, we were talking before we went on camera about the percentage of remarriages that happen to be step family. What are those statistics in the country?
Well, again, about 1 out of 3 weddings forms a step family. And a lot of them, they come through different avenues. I mean, you can end up in a step family through an out-of-wedlock birth and then a marriage to somebody who's not the biological parent, by death of a spouse, or by divorce. So there's many avenues through which people find themselves living in a step family household.
And as you just mentioned, around 100 million people in the United States. That's,
Right.
Those numbers are just absolutely staggering. You know, and the title of your book suggests that existing and future step families need to be smarter about what their family is going to look like. And so what would be one of the main things you can tell our audience that future step families need to consider before they marry?
There's a reason I entitled the books The Smart Step Family, The Smart Step Mom, and The Smart Step Dad. We can talk a little bit about the Remarriage Checkup, another book, a little bit later. But those books, step families do much better when they get smarter about step family living. Here's what I mean by that. Many of the expectations that people have unknowingly are unrealistic expectations about how step family life is going to go. You know, one of the things that I always try to differentiate for couples is that being a couple is a whole lot different than being a family. Many people marry because they've fallen in love with another person. But to be honest, the reason people divorce in step families is because they don't know how to live with the package. In other words, coupleness is different than familyness.
Absolutely.
I like to make up words, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's fine.
And so people have to get their expectations realistic. Let me give you a specific example. One of them is, because you and I are in love with each other, eventually the kids will fall in love with us or the step parent as well. Now, that represents a strong wish within couples. They wouldn't get married if they didn't think it was going to be a blessing for their children.
Right.
And that makes a lot of sense. And that wish and desire is healthy and good and right. But the reality is, kids may or may not come to love. Now, they may like, they may find a way to tolerate, there's varying levels of relationship that exist within a step family, and it doesn't necessarily equal love, which also equals harmony.
Absolutely.
And peace. And one of the things that people have to understand is they have to develop a tolerance for disharmony while you're forming and bonding relationships. We talk a lot in our ministry about the process of becoming a family. Couple starts it, but then everybody else kind of comes along at their own pace. And the couple has to find a way to be okay even though they're having some strife with a stepchild, or step siblings are not getting along, or because of this marriage an ex-spouse has popped into your life in a new way and they're causing some discomfort in your world. All of that is ripples from the marriage relationship, and people just have to kind of find a way to relax and be patient with the process.
Ron, and what you've just been talking about just in the last minute or so, is that kind of tying into your term in your book of cooking?
Yes.
Of the step family?
Yeah, one of the metaphors we use is, how do you cook a step family? And the answer right away is not with a blender. Okay? Not with a blender, because blenders, what do? You put all the ingredients in there, and blenders force all the ingredients into becoming one fluid mixture, right?
Yes.
Now notice what happens. All the ingredients have to lose themselves. They have to join together,
right.
And friction and force is what's going to make them do it. Now when you try to do that in a family, it looks like this. It's biological mom saying to her husband, why don't you take Johnny out and throw the football with him? That'll help you guys get along. Now, it's a good strategy, and it might work, and it's a good idea. He ought to try it. But if Johnny really doesn't like football, or Johnny really doesn't care to have a relationship with his stepfather at that particular level, at that particular time in his life, then that's just going to create conflict, because they're forcing ingredients, and it's going to backfire.
That's good.
So what people need to do, don't cook with a blender. Cook with a crock pot. And you know, you've heard me talk about this before. Crock pots work on a totally different level than all other cooking
They're
strategies.
slow cooking.
They're slow, and they take a lot of time, and there's a low heat. You got to have heat. You got to have heat in a step family to build relations. You got to be intentional about trying to build and connect and find the interests of a child and enter into their world, for example. That's low heat. But saying, I'm now your dad, you're going to call me daddy, is high heat.
Absolutely.
And most kids kind of bow their back at that one. Wait a minute, I already got a dad. You know, you're not going to replace him. And so that's the wrong strategy. The slow strategy, the crock pot strategy, says, let's just you and me hang out. We'll get to know each other. And then if you decide to call me a term of endearment like daddy, that will be on your time and your pace.
Right.
And crock pots take 5, 6, 7 hours depending on what you're cooking. Families, step families, need on average 5 to 7 years to develop a sense of harmony, a sense of family identity. You start with different last names. You have to find a way to become family. And so cooking with a crock pot helps couples relax, accept what you have today, enjoy what you have today, and keep building for tomorrow.
Ron, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.